Good morning and welcome back to White Mountains Today here on White Mountains TV 16. Joining us in the studio is Marianne Borowski. How are you, Marianne?
Hi, very good, and thank you so much for inviting me here.
Well, we're so glad you could be here because you're going to talk about stuff that I think a lot of people are going to go, what, in our state? So it's very exciting, and we're going to talk about the Cross New Hampshire Trail.
Yes.
And so tell people what that is, because I myself said, what is the Cross New Hampshire Trail?
Well, it is a bicycle route that goes across the state from the Connecticut River over to Bethel, Maine, and it's 83 miles, and it's a patchwork quilt of rail trails and recreation paths, dirt roads, some paved roads, some really smooth dirt roads, some not so smooth ones, some good smooth paved roads, some not so smooth ones, as we know. Basically just stitching it together so that you can ride 83 miles from one border to the other.
And can you go continuous? You don't have to stop and drive a car 10 miles or anything?
Well, yes, you can if you have a way to shuttle the car, and on the website there are ways to do that. So you can start at one end. Some people can do it in one day, all 83 miles. Some people might do it in two. I've done it in 3, so 2 nights on the road, and that's kind of at a touring pace to enjoy the towns along the way and have some nice breakfasts and dinners and cocktail hours along the way.
Well, that's exciting. And what inspired you to do this?
Well, it came out of the Cross Vermont Trail. That was one inspiration. They have worked for maybe 20 years in stitching together a route to go from Lake Champlain in the Burlington area through Montpelier and ending in Wells River, Vermont, which is, of course, across the river from Woodsville, New Hampshire. So their route goes about 91 miles, and they include rail trails and farm roads and dirt roads and paved roads, and they've been working to put in various bridges and trying to get the trail off-road as much as possible over these years. So I enjoy that kind of riding, going from one side of a state to another, and multi-day riding, cyclotourism. You know, staying somewhere, either camping or staying in a B&B or motel, and then just continuing on. So they established that. I went over there to enjoy what they had, and when I looked, you know, there's Wells River, there's Woodsville, there's the Ammonoosuc Recreation Trail that goes 20 miles to Littleton. Maybe we could have something continue here and go across New Hampshire. And I love maps, and I love putting together bike rides. So I stitched together the route. I asked the Cross Vermont team over there what they thought, and they said, go for it. It would be great to continue it. And I think their line was, it's nice to have something go past the trail's end sign. Just keep going. So altogether now, between their route and the Cross New Hampshire, it's 174 miles of riding. And I think there's a lot of interest in these longer distance bike rides.
Absolutely.
Cyclotourism. I mean, they have the Erie Canal Trail, which is, you know, I think 380 miles, the C&O Gap Trail from Pittsburgh to Washington, D.C., the Katy Trail across Missouri. All these long distance rides are attracting cyclists who want to spend their vacation budget on cycling and going from point A to B, either then returning back to A by bicycle or getting a shuttle or taking a train or a bus or however, having friends to pick you up and bring you back.
I mean, this is just, it's really exciting. And the fact that this is right here in our state. And I'm with you. That's the type of riding I like to do. I like mountain biking. I like road biking. But I like doing, I don't want to say off trail, but off the beaten path. Now, what type, and you said so you do go on different types of surfaces. So what do you recommend? You have your bike here.
Right here.
Which has kind of some hybrid tires. So I would imagine that is a minimum of what you want to have, is the heavier hybrid tires as opposed to a road bike tire.
A road bike tire would not be fun at all, I think. There's some really rough sections of this. Not rough enough to really require a mountain bike. You have to, it's a difficult choice. You've got all these different surfaces, and how do you pick a bike and tires to compromise? So road bike, you're going to fly along on the roads just fine, and then you're going to be doing a lot of walking through some of the rubble. A mountain bike might work just fine, but it might be a little draggy, a little slow. You're pushing all of those heavy tires and those nubs
Right.
on miles of paved roads that are very nice, and maybe you want something that moves a little better.
Right.
So a good compromise, what I found, are they're 42 millimeter wide tires, and they're relatively smooth, they're lightweight, and they seem to handle everything. I think some people that have more technical mountain biking skills can ride over some of the rubble maybe better than I do.
Yeah.
But I don't have a problem hopping off the bike and walking here and there and looking at the river and looking at the woods.
Right.
So it's only in short pieces that happens. So other people have taken their mountain bike and taken those tires off and put a tire a little more like this, slick. And that has worked really well for people as a compromise to cover all of the types of surfaces on this route.
Well, that's great. And a hybrid bike, and I know they're actually kind of re-promoting hybrid bikes now. I got one a couple years ago, and I love it for that reason, because it's geared more like a mountain bike, but the smoothness of a road bike. And that's actually my go-to bike right now, is using that hybrid bike, because exactly that. I can leave from my house, ride down the road, and then shoot into the woods.
Right.
So it's a really cool thing. So, and most bike shops would understand that and know
right.
about these kind of tires. Whereas 10 years ago, they might be like, what do you
Yeah,
mean?
well, I do that.
Yeah.
Well, now there's this interest in gravel bikes, gravel grinding,
Yeah.
which is a responsive bike, and it just has a more aggressive tire than a road bike. The bike frame itself can handle those wider tires, and that works on this system. And there's also an interest in bike packing, which is to load up that bike with your camping gear and your camp stove and everything, and take off and do multi-days in the woods or on a trail like this, where you're finding a campground or camping in the woods somewhere.
Yeah. It's so much fun to come up with this. And you said it can take that. Someone could do it in a day.
Yes.
But you said it's 83 miles, but you do have an elevation climb. Now, is that a steady climb, or is it kind of up and down hills? Or
most of the way is really quite steady. The rail trails that are used on this were designed back in the 1860s or 70s, and the surveyors and engineers of that time were able to route the railroad through and around the mountains, usually using the river valleys as a way to keep it flat enough for them to get the freight and the passengers up and around the White Mountains. So this route takes advantage of that. I'm on the rail trail, I'm off the rail trail, then I'm back on the rail trail, because I really like the variety.
Yeah.
Sometimes in the rail trail you're in the green tunnel, which was great for some days like yesterday, which was very sunny and warm, so you're in this green canopy. But if you get off the rail trail on some of the roads, then you have these beautiful views of the farm fields and the valleys, and of course our White Mountains, the Presidential Range.
That's terrific. And so how can people find the rail trail? How do they find where they can get on and off?
Well, probably one of the best things to do is to go to the website, which is crossnewhampshire.org. And that will give a lot of information on not only doing the route from end to end, but for doing the route in pieces. So if, like yesterday, I was with friends and we started in the Gorham area and we rode out toward Jefferson and we rode back. We had a 20-mile ride, and it worked out just fine for a day trip. Others might want, and I have information on how to do this in a day trip.
Yeah.
Day trips just on a road bike on North Road, wonderful place to ride over from Shelburne into Bethel, Maine. So if you didn't want to do the whole thing, you could find a place that you could enjoy an out and back. But the website will also show where to stay, the inns, B&Bs, campgrounds along the way, where some swimming holes are, where the coffee shops are, where the ice cream, all of the important things for cyclists, the donuts and the muffins and the breads and all that. There's plenty of these places along the way. The trail goes through 10 New Hampshire towns and 2 in Maine. So sometimes the trail goes right through the town, and sometimes it's off into the woods. So you need to know that, because you need your water and you need your food. And you might go 20 miles, 25 miles without having a chance of any of that, because you're in the woods.
Right. Well, it's just so much fun to think about this and to think about the fact that it's right here. So kudos to you for putting this together. And wow, I mean, I guess I'm kind of I'm awestruck that we have this right here because this is exactly the type of thing well, personally, that I like to do. And I've talked to a lot of people, and they like to do this type of stuff. And then knowing that it's from here, to shoot up to Gorham and hook onto that trail and go in either direction or take the whole trip is so doable. So that's really great.
You can look online and search for the Presidential Rail Trail, and that goes from Gorham west and into the Pondicherry Wildlife Refuge into Whitefield, and that section is not allowed to be used by ATVs at this point. It's for horses and walkers and bicyclists, runners, and in the winter, snowmobiles use it.
Yeah.
But there's no ATVs in there, so it makes it for a very peaceful, quiet walk or bike ride.
Yeah. Well, that's terrific. Well, again, I think this is so exciting to see this. And how are you getting the word out to people, besides obviously visiting us here today, which we appreciate?
Yes. Well, I made up brochures. I've gone to politicians, I've gone to chambers of commerce, I've gone to all the bike shops, I've gone to the inns and restaurants that are along the way. I've given them out brochures, I've told them about the trail. I have a Facebook page and Instagram. I get emails coming in. You can email me with questions about doing this trip. The email link is on the website and on Facebook. And I'm very willing to help you put this all together to plan, okay, if you want to do, let's do 3 days on the trail, 2 nights, what towns would be nice to stay in. I want to do one night. Can I do it in one day? Some people are doing it in one day, turning around, coming back the next day.
Yeah. Well, that's it. And how long, when did this epiphany happen?
Almost, I would say, almost 2 years ago, really, where the
That's
idea
not a
came
long
through.
time in the world of creating bike trails. So really, that's great. So I'm excited. I'm definitely going to look this up and get some more information about it, because it's really exciting, and knowing that it's literally
It's
in
right
our
there.
backyard.
And the
So
North Country is beautiful. It
Absolutely.
really is up there. The views of the White Mountains are just different than what we see here from the valley. It's just a different world, and it's quiet up there. Especially on a busy weekend here, you want to get a little bit away and have a quiet time. It's nice to head up there for get away from the hustle bustle a little bit.
Absolutely. I love going up there because you see the mountains from different angles. Like, I love going to Jefferson and you see Mount Washington. I'm like, well, that's a different Mount Washington, because
That's right.
you're seeing it.
It's different side.
So this is great. So thank you so much for coming by today. Again, the website is?
CrossNewHampshire.org.
Cross-
All spelled out.
So CROSS, NewHampshire.org. New Hampshire spelled out.
Yeah.
Terrific. Well, I'm looking forward to getting on the bike and going up there. So.
Oh, I'd be glad to have you go. And if you go, you get a patch and you get a sticker.
Oh,
special.
Even better.
Yeah, so.
Even better. Mary Ann, thanks again. And I hope to see you again soon.
Thank you.
And we're back here in a minute on White Mountains Today.